Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nexvia AI Podcast. I'm Michael Smith, and today's guest is someone that we ended up talking forever before we even went live. So there's just going to be no shortage of fun here. So, he's built a media platform. What I love is it's really at the center of, I think, probably one of the fastest growing, maybe even one of the most misunderstood. I'm sure you will have something to say about that. But Jimmy Young is the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, a digital network that's not only just covering cannabis, but really kind of shaping how the public and policymakers understand it. So, welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Thank you, Michael. I look forward to talking with you.
Well, let's start, take us back a little bit. A few years, I guess it's been. When you think about when you started Pro Cannabis Media, what's really happening at that time that made you feel like you had to make this move? Because I know you have a long history in this industry.
Well, I appreciate that. And I don't know about long history because I've never been involved. I was never an advocate. I never went to the Freedom Rally in Boston, which was always the civil disobedience rally every year
Yeah,
for
right.
anthem celebration, right? But but when I got my medical card in 2013 and I went to my first medical dispensary in Boston, it was Netta in Brookline. I'll throw them under the bus. Um, because the bud tender and I had a nice talk, and the first words I said to him, I said, I've been using this since I was a kid, and I really don't think I want to smoke it anymore. What else do you got? And of course, I walked out of there with my tinctures and my edibles and my vape pen and my flowered vape device and all this stuff. And I have always considered it medicinal.
Hmm.
I hate the word recreational. Okay, and there's a reason for it. First of all, we're involved with the largest um, it's the largest clinical trial that isn't controlled for a plant medicine in history. And I think you can relate to that because when we were younger, when I was younger, back in the day when the drinking age was 18, we had to learn
Hmm.
how much beer or we could drink before we upchucked.
Right.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
was and I was upchucking at age 15 on 3 beers and I couldn't figure out. And of course, I used to get crap from my friends. Oh, you can't hold your beer, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go over here and, hang out and smoke this new shit that I learned. Oh, pardon. We're not on over the air radio, right?
No, no,
Okay.
you're good. You're all
I had,
good.
I had that. I did that oops once on an over the air. Oh, sorry. And then I found out in my 30s that I was allergic to hops that are
Ah,
that's in beer, not in cannabis.
right.
So
Hmm.
God was doing it, basically saying, look, it's okay, try this stuff. And and I was ADHD and it helped me hyper focus. And
Okay.
and I love the I'm getting personal here, but I told you my middle name was TMI. I love the fact that I could tell people, and this whole driving under the influence and driving while impaired are two different things. And it's a huge issue in this industry. Okay.
Right.
And I took my driver's test under the influence of cannabis and I passed it. Not only did I pass it, I got reprimanded by the guy who was giving me the test because I parallel parked so fast. He goes, "Whoa, you did that so fast." I was like, "Well, I had a really good driving ed teacher who taught me this trick, and I use it to this day. It's amazing, and it still works." So that being said, I got through that at age 16 and a half. That's how I got introduced to it. And that's how I got introduced to it at a medical dispensary in Boston in 2013. And then I threw myself into the internet to learn about the new flower. I couldn't believe it.
Flower.
Flower. I said, wait a second, it's herb. I always used to call it herb. You can call it
Yeah.
pot grass, whatever, devil's, whatever it is. There's a million different names for it. And I've learned the derivatives of the marijuana. I don't use that word. It's a horrible word, but people still use it because they don't understand, and nor do they care to understand. And the
Hmm.
word that I use about this industry all the time is it's fascinating. It's
What's the
fascinating.
what's the bad? Why is marijuana a bad word? I don't know.
Well, when was the last time that you referred to a black person as a Negro?
I don't think I ever have.
And the only time as a sportscaster I ever used that word was to talk about Buck O'Neill of the Negro Baseball Leagues. And Buck O'Neill is a
Right. Yeah.
and I know all about Josh Gibson and all, I trust me, I know sports. That being said, that Negro is a slang term for that horrible N word. okay? And it was accepted by the white supremacists of the early 20th century that wanted to maintain the Jim Crow South and also vilify this plant and fund reefer madness. I now know everything,
Oh.
reason, and how it all started, and all of this stuff. And the knowledge is just it oozes out of my brain in so many ways. There's so much in here now. So I don't like to use that word. Now I just say MJ. And it's because, it's basically a slang term for evil weed. Okay, and it was originally spelled with an H, and it, originally
Oh.
came from the Mexicans who came into this country at the turn of the 20th century and hung out with those that were most impacted by the failed Civil War and the Jim Crow South and the prejudice and the race that divided our country back in that time from 1865 to 1937 is when the Tax Act and prohibition of cannabis began. And they
Hmm.
and our government put a racist in charge of the first ever federal narcotics bureau. His name was Harry Anslinger, and he is the one who held that job, vilified cannabis with reefer madness with the monies of Misters DuPont, Misters Hearst, Misters Carnegie, and Misters Mellon. Are you familiar with those names?
They
Because
sound familiar.
they're the industrialists from the 1920s. Okay, they're the ones who survived the crash of 29 and Wall Street.
So how did you I mean, because I know you have long history in sports
Yep.
media. Like, how did that transition from your personal journey into now it's a professional thing?
And that's a great question. Okay, there you go, Michael. Good job. I love when people ask, "Well, what?" I'm sports guy to weed guy. That's really,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
been a
that's the
talk,
shorter way of saying that.
I've been a talk show host my whole life. But when I started learning about the plant, and I started watching this platform on YouTube called Green Flower, founded by a guy named Max Simon, who, I consider Max a friend because he's been along for this journey with me since 2018 when I did my first podcast in April of 2018 at the New England Cannabis Convention, which, by the way, was the first cannabis event I had ever gone to. Ever. I walked into the Heinz Auditorium in Boston where I once saw Ted Williams catching fish, I swear, at the Sportsman's. And here was this, two halls of cannabis businesses. And I'm like, holy mackerel, I had no idea it was this big, right? It was mind boggling. And I had a little microphone into my phone, and I did my little interviews. I did 3 of them, and I learned about the plant from Green Flower, and I started to learn even more. And then I said, I'm going to start this podcast, but I can't do it without a sponsor. So I walked around that convention. And I said, I'm here to do a couple of podcasts to start, but I can't launch it until I have a sponsor. And I walked up to a woman and I said that same thing. And she goes, well, we'll sponsor you. And I'm like, I don't even know how much I'm going to charge you. She goes, I don't care. I like you. And Deirdre is one
That
of my
doesn't happen every day.
and Deirdre's still one of my best friends in the industry to this day. And they sponsored me for 4 years, and they're out of business.
Oh,
Okay. Well, because everybody loses their money that gets into it early because we're all learning by doing. We're all
right.
in, we're chartering we're a part of a historic time. And as a history major, okay, and a news person or a sports person anyway, I recognize that. So when the pandemic hit in 2020, I was doing so I did these podcasts and then I'm trying to get and make it quicker, but it's very difficult because there's so much, it's taken quite a while for me to get to where I am. And in 2018, YouTube purged their site of all Green Flower content. They pulled the plug on the channel, had
Hmm.
250,000 subscribers. Okay.
Wow.
It was all doctors like you, Dr. Michael. Okay.
Yeah.
Who were talking about the plant. So I could learn being, a consumer and someone who wanted
Right.
to
Yeah.
learn. And I used this thing called the internet, and Google really was pretty effective. So that really stuck with me. Wait a minute, they pulled that's censorship. They can't do that. Aren't we a free country? No, we're not.
They can do that. Yeah.
That's right. Well, our government gave the keys to the asylum when they basically allowed social media companies to hide behind the First Amendment instead of applying for a license with the FCC, which every other commercial media outlet in the world, in the United States anyway,
Hmm.
has to do.
Right.
And by the way, look what's going on in television and radio media. Their audiences are shrinking, 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 right?
Mhm.
And now we have niche casting. We don't have broadcasting. And when was the last time you listened to over-the-air radio?
I'll
When was the
admit,
last, when was the last time you actually watched a television channel that was over the air? Because guess what, people? It's still free.
yeah.
It's it's still
Uh-huh.
free. But
Yeah.
everybody likes convenience, human behavior. Everybody likes the convenience, throw money at a problem and, oh, look at that. I have great picture. I don't have ghosting. I don't have to tune in the channel. We're all freaking.
Right.
Oh. So in 2018, I was walking down the hallway and I looked at to my right and there was a booth. It said MJBA, the voice of cannabis. And I looked at that and I said, oh my God, I want to be the voice of cannabis. I love this. Who do I have to talk to? And the guy behind the table pointed me over to this gentleman. And I walked over to the gentleman. I introduced myself. My name's Jimmy Young. I used to be a sportscaster in town. I'm starting a podcast on cannabis. And he goes, oh, I'm Stu Zakem. And I went, there's a bridge in Boston named Zakem. Are you any relation to Lenny? And he goes, he was my big brother. And I went,
Oh,
whoa, right? I was like, whoa, right? And I worked for Lenny Zakem when I left full-time sportscaster work. I gave up my dream job and my own show in the Boston market that I had for 6 years and, won a little trophy to work with this guy because he was involved with an event called Team Harmony. That was a one-day event at the Boston Garden that was funded by a bank, the Fleet Bank at the time, and they filled the Boston Garden with 15,000 middle and high school kids who had all fought all forms of discrimination in their schools and in
hmm.
their town. And they brought the sports teams onto the stage and allowed them to talk about their experiences with discrimination and racism and anti-Semitism and take your pick, LGBTQ, whatever you want to get into.
Hmm.
It was a powerful one-day event. And I brought it back to the channel that I was working with at the time, New England Cable News in Boston. It was a 24-hour regional CNN. That's where I had my Boston show. And we started carrying it live for years, probably 5 years, 5 years in a row. And I said, at that point, I was burnt out. Fox had come into the marketplace in Boston. They were chasing ambulances and they were, embellishing the news. And I was like, this is where we're going. This is just not part of what I signed up for. And it's another reason why I did sports, not news.
Right.
Of course, we had some bad actors in the sports arena too in the 90s. Let's just say, I think there was a guy named Simpson.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
I've heard
And
of them.
when the O.J. Simpson trial happened, my channel carried it live in its entirety because we had that capability.
Right.
But I mean, who knew that I would end up leaving this broadcast career, the highlight of my life, okay, to go work with a guy who was the closest thing to a prophet that I've ever met in my life, and that was Lenny Zakem. And he passed away from bone cancer about a year after I left, after 1998, when I walked away from my contract. I didn't break the contract. I waited for it to expire. I was still doing the sports talk show for kids that won me my little trophy back there. Here, wait, I'll frame it up for you better.
Yep.
There.
We can see it.
Yep. So, that was really, I loved working with kids, always had. I was a camp counselor. I was a youth soccer coach for 35 years. So I've always worked with young people. And one of the reasons why, have you ever heard of the Peter Pan syndrome?
Yeah.
Oh, you never grew up? No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's no fun. It's no fun being a grown up. It's fun being a kid. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And I've always been driven by that. So, and now I'm a talk show host, and now I built a news team of volunteers, and we produce a weekly news show called Cannabis Coast to Coast News. And that was my vision when I went into cannabis. Was like, okay, I'm starting a podcast now. I know about a podcast network. Oh wait, is anybody doing news? Okay, I'll start doing a news show. It started with, I called it News Dabs.
Is it something that can be accessed nationally?
Well, I have a national following, so yeah, we have
Yeah. Yeah.
250,000 impressions in a month. We had
Okay.
1,000 views of our show this week, and one of the reasons why is I have a very talented, beautiful anchor named Elena Pinto who worked in Boston television for a number of years, and I was introduced to her 3 or 4 years ago. And sure enough, I was like, "Yeah, I can't pay you, but are you willing to do this?" "Yeah, oh my God, I'd love to do it." So she did it. And then, granted, all she does is read the teleprompter for 30 minutes a week. And she reads the scripts I write for her cold, and she's so freaking good.
Oh,
And she
that's good.
is beautiful. And I know this is why I have 85%, 35 4-year-old men watching our news. I get it. But these are also the people that are making the decisions in the
Right.
industry. Because we're the only
Yeah.
ones doing a TV news style news show, and it's a roundup. I have correspondents in different states. They do a 2-minute report
O-
every week.
Okay.
They call it in on their phone or whatever, and basically answer the question, what did you find to be the most interesting thing that happened in cannabis in your state? Because you're in the industry. What did you find to be most interesting? Can you answer that in under 2 minutes? Yeah,
Hmm.
do it. That's it. And then I teach them an open and a close. And then there's certain things that I do just to make it look as professional as possible. And it definitely looks like a 90s news show, because that was the last time I was on camera at 90.
Retro is in, so you're good. So, I mean, you have sponsors, or like, what's going on with it?
We've had a couple sponsors. I will
Yeah.
tell you, from a business perspective, we failed. Okay, we failed. I ran out of money. I got debanked. I've had a lot of things that have happened through this journey and yet I'm still here doing this.
What would
Because
make it, so you said you failed from a business perspective. What would make it a successful business
somebody
venture?
would somebody would give me the $150,000 budget that I need to do this every week, and that would allow me to survive, because we never did any marketing. We never,
Hmm.
I never, I built my own website on Wix at the beginning, and then I
Yeah.
actually got another guy to volunteer for me and build it for me. But we had, for 18 months, we broke even between 21, right after the pandemic, 21 to 22. In that, there's an 18-month period there where we broke even. We had a couple of national sponsors. We had some local sponsors. And the interesting thing about what I've done, and I'm in Massachusetts, okay? We've had 1.3 million views of our work since 2019, when we launched our YouTube channel, which is still Pro Cannabis Media, but this is our new brand, WPCM TV. And if you want, we can get into that. But the point is that I'm providing information for the industry. Nobody else is doing it in a professional manner. There's a couple people out in the West Coast that I know of that are doing a live news talk show every day, and I can't do it live, and I can't do it. I know technically I can do it live, but I can't do it live. But we've never had the support from the industry,
Right.
because we're telling the stories of the industry in their own words, and basically their words are bankruptcy, I've run out of money, or I got shut down.
And when you say the industry, what industry do you mean?
The
No
cannabis,
support.
the
Okay.
cannabis.
So why wouldn't they support you getting information out about what they're
That's
doing? Or what
what do I
I
tell
mean,
you? That's a
it
great
se-
question, Michael.
seems like there's a lot of potential there. Seems like there would be.
There is. And right now I am and have been hosting the Voice of Cannabis podcast, courtesy of our friends, the NCIA, which is the National Cannabis Industry Association, a group of small
Yeah.
businesses. Okay. And their executive director, Aaron Smith, and I had been friends for 6 years, 7 years, because I met him back in the day. I started this whole thing during the pandemic, when everybody went home to social distance. Okay,
Hmm.
the person I was living with at the time basically said, "You can't be here during the business day, because I'm now an entrepreneur and I need the peace and quiet in my own fiefdom. And you have an office, so go to your office every day." And I went to my office, and sure, there's no one in my office at the time. There were two people in the building, and there was actually a restaurant that opened in the ground floor of the building, and they opened, get this, March 8th, 2019. March 13th, they had to shut their doors.
Oh
Okay,
goodness.
right? And they had to go delivery. And it was
Yeah.
a they luckily they owned another restaurant in Arlington, Mass, another suburb of Boston. But the point is, they had a bar, they had sushi, and they had Chinese food. And I could have it delivered to my office. They walk up the 2 flights to get to my office. And it was a great, and I learned how to use Zoom as a news gathering tool and a content creative device.
Well, so how
And
can you make this successful today?
well, I tell you, the only companies that are surviving in the media space that I'm in, for the most part, are doing it through a paid subscription model.
Okay.
And we are putting our business plan together for this now. But, because right now, look, the biggest four companies in cannabis, multi-state operators is what they're called, Curaleaf, Trulieve, Cresco Labs, and Green Thumb Industries. Those four companies in 2023 were valued at $37 billion. You want to guess how much they're valued at today?
No, I don't want to guess, but can't imagine.
Four.
Wow. Really?
Okay. And that's at the highest level. So, what I've learned about our political system is if you have money, you need to spend it on policy in Washington, D.C., pay
Yeah.
those lobbyists, because that's how things get done in D.C.
Hmm.
Or more importantly, how they don't get done, they get delayed. And then they get delayed again because these
Right.
people are only concerned, our politicians that we put in place through our votes, their biggest concern is not what their constituents want them to do and represent. Their biggest concern is I got to keep my job.
Right. Yeah, I often say that. I
It's
say,
human behavior. It's human behavior. Okay. And
yeah.
I'm not going to get into politics because these days you're going to piss off half the country anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
We'll leave
But
that one alone.
but going to the lobby days with the NCIA in May this year changed I had no idea. I never could understand why things that made sense to me never got done at the federal level. And vilifying this plant and turning it into a tool to make money, that's called capitalism, right? It means you're going to have to throw a lot of money at it to get away from the policies, the stigma, the reefer madness, okay, that is still in our society. I
Yeah.
fight this stigma every day. Every day. In fact, even at lunch today, completely life-changing lunch I just had. And he goes, well, you can't talk about cannabis. And I'm like, okay. I actually talk about a lot of different things. I said, more importantly, I know how to interview CEOs. So there's really this is my original friend and CEO of Pro Cannabis Media in the beginning, but we dissolved it when we couldn't make any money, when the money dried up, and that's really the American way. That's why bankruptcy is still in play here, and it's why the industry has a huge debt for 2026 that's coming due.
Mm.
And the weirdest thing about this that I've learned about this industry and people and how they view it is it's always a last resort medicine. It's always a last resort
Right.
policy. And now I understand why and how it's all happened. And it's fascinating to me. It really is. I mean, look, if it wasn't for Social Security, I'd be homeless.
Well, I'm
So,
glad you're not.
well,
So you're
Michael.
so I know you have something potentially exciting coming up. Like if someone wants to get in touch with you to support you, to learn more about what you're doing, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Very easy. Please just go to the YouTube channel and subscribe.
And so
Because
Pro Cannabis Media is the name of your YouTube channel.
yes, it is. And
Okay.
WPCMTV.com is now our URL that's tied to the Pro Cannabis Media.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
WPCM.
not, it's a lot easier to change your URL than it is to change your YouTube channel because I have 16,000 subscribers on YouTube that I don't want to lose. And by the
Right.
way, I don't have their emails. So
Yes.
what's it worth? Nothing. Because I
Yeah.
don't they won't allow me to monetize my content because after all, it's community guidelines. You're actually pushing a product that's federally illegal. I said, I'm not
You mean
pushing it.
because okay, so you don't get anything from YouTube regardless because of the topic.
No, they want it. In fact, I have to click the button that says no monetization. And I have actually found out that they are inserting ads on my content
Yeah.
and and taking advantage of me, but I'm not making a dime on that. and I don't click the box that says, "Do you have any paid promotionals in this content?" And I'm like, no. First of all, it's all barter. It's all barter anyway right now.
Right.
I've
Yeah.
dissolved the company. We're restarting under, and we're going to be focusing on more on wellness because cannabis is a subset of the wellness industry.
Mm-hmm.
And wellness is $1 trillion industry, and cannabis is $1 billion industry. And I'm not very good with numbers or with business, but I know that trillion is bigger
That
than
one's
billion.
that one's pretty clear. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
go to the subscribe, and then it's Jimmy, Jammy, at procannabismedia.com. That's still where we're at. That's the best
okay.
way to get to me. And I get pitched all the time by salespeople. And, oh, you have such great content. You should be doing so much better. And I'm like, yeah, you want to sponsor us? You want to buy a sponsorship? Oh, no, I don't have any. Nobody has money. It's like, you know what? Whatever. It's fine. I sold media, by the way, for 15 years, in addition to 30 years of on-camera work in
Right.
amazing. So I understand that part too, but I'm really tired of explaining and selling what I've built,
Yeah.
and
But
that's
it
why.
sounds like you have something, fingers crossed, something that could be a game changer for you.
Oh, life changer. That
Yeah.
absolutely is, and it goes back. Look, I've known this guy for a long time. I can't even explain. I can't even tell you what it is because it's a pre-IPO opportunity. Catch my drift?
I gotcha. And so if they follow you on YouTube, ultimately they would learn a little bit more about it that way.
No, no, because that's not has they don't want to have anything to do with the cannabis industry,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
fine.
So they
Which
will
is fine.
just have to keep searching you out.
I gave you my email. You could contact me. Happy to talk to anybody, as you know, Michael, because that's how you found me. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yep.
By all means, link in with me. I got like 6,000 whatever following me, but I
So
don't.
just look them
I
up.
don't
Jimmy Young, Pro Cannabis Media, Jimmy at
if you Google,
procannabismedia.com.
there are a lot of Jimmy Youngs, just like there are a
Yeah.
lot of Michael Smiths, right? Okay.
Yeah. One or two.
So if you Google, and everybody Googles their own name, right? So I was a sports guy, right? There's a boxer from the 70s named Jimmy Young, and he fought my hero, Muhammad Ali, in 1978. Jimmy Young
Oh, wow.
also put George Foreman into retirement, his first retirement. So he was a legitimate heavyweight boxer in the 70s. He was more of a boxer than a hitter and a brawler, and I don't even want to get into the other heavyweight champion who's in the cannabis industry because he's a convicted rapist, and I don't want to give him any time. And I think you know who I'm talking about. Most people do.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
There's a food company that has the same name. All right, let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Everybody
Uh-huh.
thinks what they want. But again, I go back to I have certain principles as far as my own content, my own life, what drives me. Money has never driven me. I was a sportscaster. I got paid like crap. So I
It
went over
doesn't
to
drive you, but you got to live.
I understand that. And trust me, I'm trying to keep living. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up on life at all. And I've learned quite a bit, quite a few lessons. And I had an amazing life partner that just couldn't deal with me much more after 22 years. So that ended in 2022, and so did my money running out, and so did a lot of other things. And then by 2023, I had to shut the doors on Pro Cannabis Media as a business or doing business as.
Right.
I, I had an incorporated a C corp that was that we dissolved. It's dissolved. That media company. So this new media company, which is WPCMTV.com, and it's also WPCMTV LLC. I had new partners in Arizona that,
Okay.
for whatever reason, wanted to partner with me because they believed in what I was doing, or at least they saw something in me that could make them money. Because let's face it, I get it. Okay. And I really don't mind making money for other people as long as I get a fair shake and be
Yeah,
able to make a living.
exactly. Yeah. Well, if you want to get in touch with Jimmy, I think we've given you all the different ways you can get in touch with him and get some inside scoop on what's coming next.
That's right.
All
And by
right.
the way, just for the record, Michael, on LinkedIn is my phone number. On my website is my
Yep.
phone number. And now I'm getting fished all the time. So I have bill collectors and getting fished by people through that phone number. It's
Oh
pretty
God, yes.
it's
Yeah.
pretty wild. But I'm still looking forward to producing my news this week because we have a nice little qualitative following. People like it, and Elena is really talented. And this opportunity is going to. She doesn't even know this. Okay, so I don't. I don't know if we're doing this live or you're
It's
recording.
not live, but
Okay. No, but she'll find out about it
you might
eventually.
want to tell her soon.
I will. She's off this weekend, but she'll be back next week. And I told her, I said, I'm going to try and take care of you. I said, you're going along for this ride with me at this point because you've worked for me for 3 years and haven't
Yeah.
asked for a dime. And I
Yeah.
know
Wow.
how talented she is. Look, the one
Yeah.
gift I have, Michael, is I can recognize and see talent. And it's the definition of talent that is still pretty ambiguous.
I would imagine you have more than that one talent, but I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me, Jimmy. I'm definitely going to be checking out your show. I appreciate it,
Terrific.
and
By the
definitely
way,
interested to hear what you guys are covering.
the name of the show is Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Okay, fantastic.
Okay, and you can Google that, or if you do Jimmy Young Cannabis, my name will come up above the Jimmy Young boxer, which I'm very proud of, and and then you can find out more about me if you want or whatever. So like I said, Google's an amazing thing, and search has changed. So now we have AI. I'm sure you're familiar with this,
Yes.
and there's something called LLMs now that AI is learning. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they're learning about the impact I've had on this industry. And I know that's why our numbers have increased exponentially
Oh,
since.
that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how they could get to me. And I appreciate so much that you, for whatever reason, wanted me to come on and talk with you.
Well, it's been intriguing. What an intriguing journey you've had to get here, and you're not done yet. I have a feeling you're not done yet.
No, the best part is I have stories, okay, about when I got high with Jerry Seinfeld one night, Larry Miller,
Oh,
Paul
goodness.
Reefer.
We might have to do a follow-up and hear about
Bill,
that.
Bill Kreutzmann, the original drummer for the Grateful Dead, the late
Yeah.
Brett Easton of the Grateful Dead, Dennis McNally, their longtime publicist, was from Maine. I was a sportscaster in Maine. So, I mean, I have tremendous stories from my sports career.
I
This
am
is
I have no
this is
doubt.
this is just what I'm doing lately, you know.
Yeah.
And I definitely gave you, TMI. It's too much information.
Well, we'll schedule number two and dig into that.
Right.
All
Appreciate
right. I appreciate it. Great chatting with you.